Leadership and integrity. They're both in short supply and high demand. This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV, and this week my special guest is the coach, Gary Waters. We're going to talk about it right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on KCAA Radio here in Southern California and Guys Radio, my worldwide podcast. Guys TV, Guys Radio, thanks for your support. Okay, we're going to have a conversation about character, something that's so needed in today's world. And I've got one of the great coaches, Gary Waters. We're going to talk about his book. It's called 10 Principles of a Character Coach. Let me tell you a little bit about the book and about Coach Waters. 10 Principles of the Character Coach. Coach Waters defines character coach as someone with integrity, honesty, moral values. He provides a clear, experience-based advice on how to be a character coach. So it's help for coaches and it's also help for players and just people in general. He addresses the issues that many young men and women are experiencing in athletics today, and it's very complicated out there. He believes character and values need to be a high priority for everybody, including coaches who are tasked with guiding young people and also themselves. The book, 10 Principles of a Character Coach, is for anyone looking to hone their leadership abilities, improve their communication skills in any aspect of their lives. It's all about integrity, character, empathy, and leadership. Coach Waters earned his reputation as the winningest coach in the history of Cleveland State University. His teams won 194 games. He led the Vikings to 6 postseason appearances, including making the NCAA Tournament, advancing to the second round after they shocked Wake Forest. He rebuilt 3 programs, Kent State, Rutgers, into winners. He led Kent State into the first NCAA tournament appearance in 1999 and a second one in 2001. He was named Horizon League Coach of the Year, Horizon League champions, Ferris State, Kent State Hall of Fame, winner of the John Lotz Barnabas Award, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I can go on and on. I'm so happy he's here to talk about character and leadership. Welcome to Guys Radio, Coach Gary Waters.
Well, thanks. I'm listening to you and I'm wondering who that guy is.
Well, let's start at the beginning. You're a tremendous guy and you've done great work for humanity in shaping young men and women along the way. But what is it that initially drew you into coaching, and how has coaching basketball changed since you began?
Well, at first, I wasn't even thinking about coaching. My whole thought, because I graduated in college in business administration, and I wanted to go out in the business world and change the world. Okay, I went an internship with General Motors, and the group of men they brought in there, they were trying to make them executives. So that it really trained me a lot. And when I finished, they offered me a job. Now imagine this: in 1975, they offered me a job that paid about $65,000-$70,000. Now, back in those days, that was a lot.
That was real money, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I turned it down, and I said, "Nah, this is not what I really want to do. My whole objective is to change lives, and I wanted to do that." And so I sat down and thought about what was the best way. I sat down with the Lord, and I told him, "Hey, what I want to do is change lives, and I think I can do it in basketball."
How did you get your first gig coaching?
Well, I went back to the school I played at, Ferris State, and I went back there because that coach was a dominant coach, one of the best coaches in college basketball. Literally, he was the first coach to one of the only coaches during that time period to go from high school into becoming a head coach in college. That just doesn't happen. And he was such a great example for me. He was a true character. His name was Jim Wink. He was a true character coach. I played for him, and he literally showed me the way. Showed me the values of my life. And then I went back to him and said, "Hey, I want to get in coaching." He said, "Come on, join the staff."
Fantastic. You say coaching is a gift, and I love that. How did you, for this book called 10 Principles of a Character Coach, how did you come up with the 10 principles?
Well, I was thinking at the time I had just retired, and I said, what I want to do in retirement, I want to write. I want to tell my story. And so I first wrote a autobiography.
Oh, your screen is freezing, Coach. Okay.
or she said, I like the book, but
All right, time out. Can you hear me, Coach?
people will gravitate toward it. And that makes a lot of sense because then they'll know who you are. So she told me that I should do some other writings. And then I thought of 10 Principles of a Character Coach.
Fantastic. Who are your personal personal and coaching influences?
Well, I had in my life, I had two very good ones. I had, like I said, I told you about Jim Wink. He was one of the leaders in my life. And then the other I had, I'm gonna tell you, was a guy by the name of Joseph White. Okay, and he's got me on the path of doing the right things and coaching. So, but now if you're talking about the collegiate level, I've had a lot, John Thompson, John Chaney was good in my mind. But I tell you who really was, I considered the ultimate character coach that really taught me a whole lot was Dean Smith. So, I've had some good people in my life.
What did Coach Smith teach you?
Well, when I was in coaching, and I was sponsored by Nike, and as he was, and we would go on this Nike trip, and you bring your wives, you play a lot of golf, and just communicate and get to know each other. So on this trip, I introduced myself to him, and he and I just talked, and we just hit it off. I mean, when I tell you two people just hit it off, we just talked, and he taught me things that, about how to maintain your character in the sport and integrity. Don't get caught up in all these things that are going on and so on. And something that I don't think a lot of people know about, and I don't think he would be upset if I said this, God bless his soul. We were talking, and it was a book that came out by John McClendon. You ever heard that name before? And I wouldn't be coaching today if it wasn't for John McClendon. And he was in North Carolina, and he was at a small school called North Carolina A&T. They had won the Black College National title. Dean Smith seen his team play in the championship game. And they ran what was called a four corners, okay? Mm-hmm. He had never seen that before. He went on, as he was looking at that, he said, after the game and they won the championship, he went and talked to him and said, can you and I talk? And then they talked, and he said, man, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Now, if you remember, a short time later, he won the national title with four corners. The reporters interviewed him. They said, man, that was outstanding. And he said, yeah, but you can't give me the credit. It's a little guy down the road named John McClendon. And he said, and so all that, now I'm telling you this for a purpose, because when we were on that trip, I had read this in the book. So I asked him, I said, Dean, why would you do that? Why would you give him the credit? He said, I had to. And I said, tell me why. He says, because, I'm committed to helping people and giving them their rights. What you may not know, Gary, my dad was a freedom fighter for Martin Luther King. And when I heard that, I said, man, it's a lot. And see, Dean Smith was one of the first to bring African Americans into the ACC. So, he was just an unbelievable character person.
The book is terrific. And let me ask you, why do you think that character is, or is it such an issue in today's game? To me, it's very tough where you have these great athletes come into programs and now they can leave after their freshman year. And there's a lot of people pulling on them, and there's a lot of pressure. And, the NCAA, it's big business now. It seems to me the character is more important than ever. But what was your take on that while you were preparing your thoughts to put this book together in terms of the importance of character?
I tell you, at the time, things were going on in the NCAA. You remember, maybe you had to be back 5 years ago when they had all the scandals that were going on. And I woke up one morning, I said, man, something's got to be done about this. So that's when I decided to write this book. And I think what was happening is people were more concerned about winning and their successes than the people that were in front of them to make them the very best they can be as human beings. And we had lost sight on that for a long time. It was win at all costs, make as much money as you can make. Don't care about if you get a degree or education. And I just felt so bad about that. I said, I have to do something.
Your number one in your 10 principles is God first, trust, let God be your guide. I would assume you mean that transcends any one religion. I know you're a Christian, as I am, but I got to think it's bigger than just an individual religion. Let me ask you about what was your inspiration for making that number one? And also, how do you relate to players, or how can coaches relate to players who may not be religious or spiritual, if you will?
Oh, that's very good. Very good question. And you know what? The one thing you needed to know, I understand the concept. See, a lot of coaches may not understand the concept because of church and state, all the things that are in there. So it's hard to keep their job. So for me, I understood that. So I never forced anything upon my players, but I gave them options. And those options was, you can go to church with me. We can talk. If you have any questions, let's talk about it. And from that, I had almost all of them come to me and say, hey, help me here, coach. I need to understand this. And then probably the biggest thing you can do is your example. You got to lead by your example. I think in our society today, we're having a hard time with leading by example. I'll give you this. When I would go into homes, the first thing I would tell one of the things I would tell the parent is that I could not be your son's role model. And they would look at me like, what the heck? What do you think you're here for? We got these issues with our son, especially, and I want to say this to you. I finished my next book, which is called Coaching Millennials from a Character Perspective. So this comes out even in that. And when I was talking to the parent, I said, hey, I'm not trying to push your son around or push him on someone. What I'm trying to tell you is the role model should be you. It shouldn't be anyone else, it should be the parents. And that's what's happening in our society today. The parents aren't the role model. But I went on to say to them, I said, but what I can be is an example to your son. If each and every day he's with me, he see my example, and maybe he may want to live like that.
How do you define integrity, Coach Waters?
Oh, okay. That's a simple definition for me. Doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And don't be compromised in your values, as well as you can do the right thing and regardless of anyone's around you. See, let me clarify that a little bit better for you. Doing the right things is the right thing to do, and regardless if anyone's watching. That defines what integrity is. And then don't get compromised in your values. Because I think what happens is we're pushed to the edge so hard in our society today that we compromise. We give a little here, we give a little there, and before you know it, the whole thing is broken.
As a coach, did you find that, is there a lot of pressure on coaches? I would think the answer is yes, but I'd like you to articulate about it. You've got the people who donate a lot of money to the school, you've got the parents, yes. You've got these talents, you've got the financial aspect of making it a winning program. How as a character coach and how as somebody who's built their character, how do you handle all of that?
Well, you have, and that's a great question, because it's difficult. They're coming at you at all sides. They want you to win, but then they want you to be an example to others. I give you this. I just spoke at the NCAA Final Four, and I spoke to probably around 200 coaches, and they all showed up because my name wasn't on the agenda because they called me at the last minute. So they showed up just because of the subject matter, because that was on there, character. And it was literally called character-driven culture. And what's happening in our society today, that a coach, a businessman, a leader, they are involved in three cultures. First culture, their family. So they got to teach them and show them the right way and make sure that is clear in their lives, okay? The second group or culture, you want to call it, is your business, whatever you're in. If you're a coach, it's you're coaching young men, you want them to do the right things. So you want to make sure you clarify that to them through character, okay? So you got to show character with your family. You got to show character. Then there's a third and final one, which I think is a key factor. That third and final one are your friends, people that you hang around with. So you may want to fit in, so you change your character. So in order to maintain who you are, You can't change that. You can in your parents, I mean, with your children and family do one thing, then in your business do another thing. And then when you get around your friends, you change. Prime example, Group. He got in that trouble. And it was the third thing that got him in trouble was his cronies or friends. They came up with all this information that got out because he changed his behavior in front of them. And he wanted to fit in.
Amazing. So my special guest today is Coach Gary Waters. I'm looking at his book right now, The 10 Principles of a Character Coach. And character is so important today for coaches, for people, for parents, and great work you're doing here. So let's just go through some of the others. I'll just read them off and you can pick any one you want to talk about. Treat others the way you want to be treated, love unconditionally, work hard at what matters, value and demonstrate loyalty, which is very rare today, empower and serve your staff, which I love that one because so many bosses now, if you will, are over controlling. They don't allow their teams to flourish. Honor the profession and players. Leave a character legacy. Is there one that stands out over all the others in your mind, Coach Waters?
Well, the one I like, obviously the first one I want to make sure it gets a person because, if you're only thinking about yourself, you're going to be hard in life. That's why you got to put something ahead of yourself. Okay. But I'm telling you, the fifth one about love unconditionally. I know you're wondering, hey, why that one out of all this? Why? Because, I had a lot of players, or not a lot, I can say I had some players that didn't have the father figure in their home. So I wanted to show them how a father responds to things and how they show love to the people around them, meaning your wife, your children. So one day when they go out into the world, and if they get children, if they have a family, they know the right things to do. And that was really important to me that I showed that example to them, that I love the people around us. And so what ends up happening is they know that you love them as well. So they work for you. They do as much as they can to succeed for you.
I think that's terrific because so much now love is kind of transactional. If we live in a transactional society now, so right. I'll love you until you.
And you know what, David? Robert, I hate to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
The tell you is it's conditional. If you can do these things for me, I'll show you love.
Exactly. How do you love yourself, Coach?
Well, each morning I get up and the first thing I do is I talk to the Lord and I spend an hour or more communicating with him. In retirement, it's a lot easier. And so from that, it builds me up to go out in the world and face things that are happening. And what I try to do each and every day is think of something positive so I can share it in the world. That's how I love myself. I just think it, and I'm pretty fortunate. I got a wife that I've been with 49 years. In January, it'll be 50. And that's because of understanding what love means.
Congratulations. Fantastic. So what do you think is the biggest challenge in the college game today? It keeps changing. There's a lot going on there. It's a beautiful sport and it's very different than the NBA. What's your overall take on what's going on in college basketball and some of the challenges that they face that are unique to college versus the NBA? And I'd like to touch on the NBA after that a little bit, just to get your perspective.
Okay, very good. I'm going to tell you something. It's difficult times. When I was in it, it wasn't as difficult. And as the time went on, toward the end of my retirement, and when I was ready to retire, it all came out. There's a 5th year rule in college basketball that if you go, like certainly your first year, you red shirt, then you got 4 years. And then you 3 of them, you graduate within that 3 year. You can go any place you want in the country and play immediately. And the bad thing on that was, if you were, being at Cleveland State at the time, that was a mid-major school. We were one of the top mid-majors in the country. So we had great players. So the high-level players, meaning Power 5 players, coaches would look at that and say, hey, let's try to recruit that kid to come to our schools. He can go anywhere he wants to go. And so in my last 2 years, I lost 5 guys, and we were picked to win the conference both years. But when you lose those kind of guys, it's so difficult. And so now I say that to say there's 2 rules today that I think is really causing a lot of havoc in college basketball. One is the portal. meaning you can go into the portal anytime you want. You can only do it once, though. You can go in the portal and transfer it to another school and play immediately if you meet the requirements or regulations. Oh, man, you done put all your time, interest, work into this kid just because you don't give him the right pair of gym shoes. Okay, I'm going to another program. And that's some crazy stuff. That reminds me of the old times. And I think we've gone back, recycled back. And then you put the last one in, the NIL. I mean, that's a nightmare because now you got one guy making $1 million on the team and the other, say, if it's football, another 80 not making a penny.
Okay, let me ask you about the NBA because I think it's relevant here because what you kind of touched on is a lot of more player freedom at the college level now. They can kind of pick and choose. And the NBA is very different than a lot of sports in that now you have the superstar players like, let's get a big three together. It started, I guess, with LeBron. Let's put our team together. And it's very fluid. And we don't know who, if you're going to sign a max contract, if you're going to opt out. I'm from New York, we've got the Kyrie thing and Durant, and you never know what's happening there. What are your thoughts on the NBA? Is this good for the game that these superstars can create their own teams, or is this not as good? Because you go back and you look at Michael Jordan. He went to the Bulls. He had players on there. Some of them were great and some of them weren't. And they had a team, though. And you look at the Warriors, they play like a team. And it's not like three superstar individuals. They've got a whole fluidity and all of that. So I'd love to, sorry for the long question, but love to get your perspective on today's NBA.
Well, that, in relating it back to the collegiate level, I think what that is doing is perpetuating that feeling that it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you can get what you want out of the game. But at the professional level, I think it's, I was in Cleveland when LeBron was there. So, and I was in Cleveland when LeBron played in high school because I was at Kent State at the time. So I had a chance to visualize his whole life as he grew up. And if you go back in time, those teams still had great players, 2 or 3 great players. Think about it. You're just, you were from New York, some of those teams there had 3 great players. So it can be done without trying to create it, and it was done through the draft back then. And, now it's not as much done through the draft. You may get one, but what you try to do is you pool your money together and get another. Right. And so, what I think is teaching our younger players, and especially young adults, that what's going on in our society is all about one thing, is trying to get as much money as you can under the circumstances. So in return, they have no loyalty because of that one thing. And then the coach has no loyalty. And then it's a perpetuation of this constant problem about, I got to get the most I can financially out of this situation.
Fantastic.
And I say loyalty, we can go to the higher education at the top level there. There's no loyalty. So who suffers? The kid is the one that suffers when we don't do it the right way.
Well, I've got to tell you, you have lived a life of integrity in your coaching career and as a man, and this book is terrific. 10 Principles of a Character Coach, Coach Gary Waters. It's been my honor to speak with you today. So thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find out more about you and get your book, website, whatever.
Very good, very good. Well, my website is www.coachwaters.com.
Okay.
And they can look on there and they can see, what I'm all about. The whole works there. But my book is sold at Amazon. It's sold on Amazon and at Barnes and Noble. So it's there and it's available for anyone to get. And let me tell you, from all the words I've been hearing about this book, I think it's at the right time.
Well, it's needed for sure. It's needed.
I think it's at the right time because society has changed and we have so many issues. I want to leave you with this last note. One of the things I'm doing because of all these issues, I'm doing character workshops for the police department.
Fantastic.
And teach them about, what is meant by character? What is the true definition of character? And how do we live a life of character under the circumstances that we're under? And, they're under difficult circumstances. And you and I both know it ain't all police officers. Anything like in life, it's the short, little, small bad will make the good turn in a different direction.
Right.
So what I'm doing that, and I think it's really helping. And then the second thing I'm doing, which I love, I'm creating a men's retreat and workshop on character. So
Fantastic.
for church, it's for them, they can use, and they can get a treat, get away within their area and have a workshop on it, but also have some celebration on it.
I love it. Great work. Great man. Thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. We really need your help, and guys out there need help also, because it's a crazy time for men. So thank you so much, Coach Waters, for being on Guys Radio. Hope we'll do it again at some point.
Hey, we should do this, Robert. This is a great program.
Thank you.
Yep.
If you enjoy the content and interviews I do each and every week on Guys Radio and TV, please support me by subscribing to our channels. Thanks so much.